Story 1. It is being stuck in your own mind and watching life pass you by. You care, but you do not at the same time. You know happiness is possible, but for some reason you cannot grasp it. You try really hard. You do not want to disappoint the people around you or yourself, but everything you do feels like the wrong move. You know life can be beautiful, but you also see the darkness it holds, and that is what your brain focuses on. It is heavy, painful, and dark. It is even there in your dreams, so you can never fully escape it. Medication can help, but often it only makes things bearable when it becomes severe. I support medication when needed. It helps most of the time. I am currently going through this. Story 2. Think as pessimistically as you can about the state of the world and your own life. That's your emotional baseline. Think about how you feel after a really shitty night's sleep, getting up early, having to focus at work, and being really stressed that you're going to mess something up. That's your energy baseline. Think about how you feel when you get stood up, are not invited, or feel left out. That's your social baseline. Think about how hard it is to make yourself a healthy meal or go to the gym when you're completely exhausted. That's your health baseline. Wrap it all up in an invisible, dense fog that never lifts and that no one else can see. So they just keep asking, "Are you okay?" Story 3. Why bother doing anything? Nothing makes a difference. Why go to work, get out of bed, eat right, or eat junk food? It feels like watching a movie on a small, distant black and white screen with low sound. It is hard to make out what is happening, so you cannot get invested in anything. Story 4. Moving through your life as if you were walking through a large room full of jello. Every movement feels slow, heavy, and difficult. Each step forward requires effort and willpower. Story 5. Depression is not the opposite of happiness. It is the opposite of energy. Story 6. You lack enjoyment, care, passion, motivation, and feelings. You just feel empty. Story 7. Depression affects those tormented by it in much the same way as the ring affected Frodo. Story 8. I want to die but do not have the courage to act. Nothing is fun anymore. Sleep is the only thing to look forward to, but sleeping too long makes me more depressed and tired. I am afraid to leave the house or talk to anyone. The house is a mess, but I do not have the energy to clean it, which makes me feel worse every day. I wish I were an oblivious, stupid person who could just exist. Just existing is painful. I hate work, hate doing anything, and hate myself for feeling this way. Comes in waves. I never drown completely, but I have never been dry. I'm sorry you are feeling this way. If you are in immediate danger, call your local emergency services now. If you are in the United States or Canada, call or text 988 for suicide and crisis support. If you are in the United Kingdom, call Samaritans at 116 123. If you are in Australia, call Lifeline at 13 11 14. If you are elsewhere, contact local emergency services or a local crisis line, or reach out to a trusted person or a mental health professional. Story 9. It can also come in waves. For me, I can have a few good weeks or even months, and then I crash for a month or so, slowly coming out of it. If you are an introvert, you use up any social energy reserves quickly, which makes it much harder. Story 10. You feel as if a demon is inside you, constantly telling you horrible things about yourself. It tells you that you are worthless, that no one loves you, that life is pointless and will not get better, and that you ruin everything. It convinces you that life is not worth living and that you would be better off dead. Story 11. Everything feels hard. I cannot be bothered to do anything, or I can only focus on tasks that are not fun. I have to work and order food. Folding and putting away my clothes does not need to be done. I only need to wash things. I can do things I enjoy, but they are often just going through the motions. Story 12. A lot of people think depression is just prolonged sadness. Sadness is blue. Depression is gray. Sadness is a powerful feeling that hurts, but can also inspire and motivate you in a painful yet meaningful way. Depression is a void that sucks away feeling, inspiration, motivation, and meaning. Sadness is a sharp pain in your heart. Depression is a dull ache in your entire being. Sadness fills you with sorrow. Depression empties you of everything. Depression is a vacuum. Story 13. A rain cloud follows me around while everyone else sees sunshine. Story 14. Imagine carrying an invisible ship's anchor with you at all times, adaptable and impervious to whatever you throw at it. Every color in the world turns gray, and every emotion you have ever felt loses its definition until your default state is emptiness and endless fatigue. Story 15. I should take a shower. It's been 3 days, but I can't get out of bed. I try to move, but invisible pressure weighs on me and I cannot get up. I tell myself maybe tomorrow. Then I remember I have to go to work and actually do my job like everyone else, or I will lose my income. My family made me feel this way since childhood. I have only one friend, whom I never see. We only talk by phone. That is the only person I speak with nowadays. I had to cut ties with my toxic family that never made me feel protected or warm. No matter the situation, what I do or say, I never feel good enough. At work, people ask, "Are you okay?" They say I look serious and tell me to smile. They say I look sad and tell me not to be sad. My boss tells me to smile more because coworkers do not feel at ease when I am serious. I muster energy from somewhere to chat with them. I come back home with no energy. I have had no energy since I woke up. Should I make something for dinner? I cannot. The pressure is still on me. I tell myself to go to bed and that tomorrow I will shower. The cycle repeats. Story 16. My body produces fewer neurotransmitters associated with happiness than the average person, which makes everyday activities less enjoyable. That can also make me less pleasant to be around for many people. I am this way for reasons largely outside my control, and I put in a lot of unseen effort to enjoy life and avoid being an emotional burden to others. Living with depression takes more effort when your brain does not produce reward-related neurotransmitters properly. Story 17. You become a third person in your own body, giving instructions to your mind so it will move your body to do what you want. There is an additional step to everything you do every day. You have to convince your brain to do something instead of it just doing it. Eating, you have to debate with your mind why you deserve to eat. It's like playing a game on hard mode. We might be playing the same game and fighting the same boss, but it feels different. Story 18. Nothing cheers you up. You feel hollow inside. What used to bring you joy is gone. There is no desire or need. You just exist. Story 19. You cannot perceive good things or hope for better. They do not feel real, no matter how logical the argument is. When it gets bad, you cannot feel anything at all. Nothing matters enough to get excited, passionate, or even angry. Feelings are gone. Story 20. When you play a video game and encounter a side quest that seems pointless, it can feel like life rather than an optional task. You see no obvious reward. Comes across as a chore. Sometimes you feel indifferent, sometimes irritated at having to do it, sometimes sad because the quest achieves nothing. It never brings excitement or eagerness. Story 21. It's the absence of joy even in things you once found joyful. Joy, motivation, and the will to do anything are gone. If I had to describe how limbo or oblivion feels, it would be depression. The brain feels stuck in a state of oblivion, with the brain fog that comes with depression. You become a secondary character, an observer who does not care about observing, who does not care about anything and cannot bring themselves to care even if they want to. Story 22. I never try to explain my mental states to anybody. It is always disappointing and people don't fucking care. Story 23. It does not matter how you describe it. If you have not been depressed, you will not understand how it feels. Story 24. Have you ever thought about Sisyphus and his boulder? Why doesn't he just stop and rest? That feeling is like getting out of bed, showering, cooking, carrying groceries, and so on. I just want to let that boulder rest at the bottom of the hill and rot into the mattress. Story 25. Remember the most sad you have ever been. Then remember exactly what made you happy after that. Now imagine that even after doing that you are still as sad as you were before. This is basic depression. If the things that are supposed to make you happy no longer do, and that makes you even more sad so that you stop trying them because you are afraid they will make you more sad instead, that is severe depression. Story 26. You know those dreams where you try to run but cannot move and try to scream but make no sound? That confusion and panic set in. It's like that. Story 27. All your favorite foods taste like ashes, your favorite music sounds awful, and the jokes that used to make you laugh now make you feel sick. You'd rather sleep, but you can't. You're exhausted, and sleep doesn't help. Happiness isn't just fleeting. It's fiction. Story 28. Completely disconnect from anything and anyone, including yourself. Story 29. Heartbreak feels like the love of your life died or left you, even though there was no reason. Story 30. There is the anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure or joy from anything. The worst part is an interminable sinking feeling in the chest that has no limit or end. A true bottomless pit. It is excruciating. After another night of broken sleep wrestling with it, you wake and it is there again. You still have to toil at work and in daily chores to feed and shelter yourself, only to keep whatever is eating at you alive. Sometimes the pain becomes sharp, as if it is thrashing against the walls of the cavity of your chest, resisting its own plight. You did not know psychosomatic pain could literally hurt like that. Some wonder why people commit suicide. Stop wondering. That is why. You catch yourself moving past shop windows. Your form and gait are no longer human. Your bones do not feel right. You are hobbled, slow, and off-kilter. People look away and keep their distance. You have become something completely other. Even you no longer know what you are, and it is only getting worse. All your striving and your best efforts have landed you here. This is the result. Just keep your chin up. Story 31. It's like the color drains out of everything and you can't remember what it felt like when it didn't. Story 32. My depression feels like homesickness, but I am already home. It is scary, and my limbs feel like lead. Story 33. You have the money to pay a monthly bill and hold the phone that lets you pay it in just 20 to 30 seconds, yet you still cannot muster the will to push 5 or 6 buttons to do it. Story 34. Dopamine-producing neurons don't want to work anymore, so nothing I do makes me happy. Story 35. You know those moments when you feel tired and do not want to do anything? That can be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a person with depression. Story 36. It feels like a stone in my chest. A gloomy dark cloud follows me wherever I go. That is what it physically feels like. It is sometimes debilitating, though not entirely. Story 37. An absolute void of energy. That is how you realize it is an actual disease. People with depression will not be able to do anything. Imagine someone very weak trying to lift impossibly heavy weights. The best you can do for a person during that time is be there and help with even the smallest things. Story 38. I'm sorry you're feeling so numb and exhausted. It sounds like you have no energy and even small tasks feel overwhelming. Are you safe right now? If you are in immediate danger, call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, call Samaritans at 116 123. In Australia, call Lifeline at 13 11 14. If you are elsewhere, please contact local emergency services or a crisis line in your country. Please consider reaching out to a trusted person, a mental health professional, or a healthcare provider. I can help find local resources or, if you want, edit the text into a version suitable for Azure text-to-speech that is less triggering. Do you want me to do that? Story 39. If you wake up, you don't have to go to work, and you don't have anything to do right away, yet you still can't find a reason to get out of bed. You just lie there doom scrolling or staring at the ceiling for a couple of hours. That's it. Story 40. You have a car and decide to drive through the thickest mud imaginable. You know you will get stuck, but being stuck feels better than anything else in the world. Once you are stuck, you hit full throttle and continue to dig yourself in, getting increasingly stuck. Story 41. You know those film or music video scenes where the person in front of the camera stands still while everyone around them moves quickly? That is what it feels like to me. Being stuck while everyone else gets on with their lives. Story 42. Drowning in an ocean. The sky is dark. Waves crash over your head, and you are exhausted from keeping your head above the surface. Some days the water is manageable. Other days it feels like it will drag you under. The waves are always there. Story 43. Everything looks black and white. Every choice hurts. You have no motivation. You cannot explain why you feel this way. You sleep all the time to forget that you exist. Story 44. Take a blanket from your bed. Soak it in cold water. Then drape it over your head and body and continue your daily routine. For me, it was a voice that advised against everything. When I realized the justifications it gave were loose and poorly thought out, I was able to start slowly taking the blanket off. I still welcome the voice because it's part of me. We have good conversations and work things out. I still need it sometimes, but it doesn't rule my life anymore. Story 45. I have two analogies I like to use. 1. Have you ever heard the term rose-colored glasses? A person metaphorically wears rose-colored glasses and the world looks rosy. Depression is, pardon the crude language, excrement-colored glasses. The world is not really messed up, but to a person with depression it sure seems that way. 2. Imagine you are at an amazing banquet and the table is loaded with food and everybody is having a blast. But to you everything smells and tastes as if it has been sprinkled with dried excrement, and only you can smell and taste it. Meanwhile, everyone else at the table is offering you seconds and thirds and asking why you are not enjoying it, when all you would like to do is run away from the table as fast as you can. Story 46. Imagine your bones are made of iron, and your muscles are unable to move them. Imagine that your thoughts, your mind, are made of the same iron. Imagine you cannot make sense of anything in your life and that you feel it does not matter anyway. There you are. Story 47. It's like walking in a tunnel, but you can't see anything. There's no light to walk toward, and you have no legs. Voices tell you it's all over and that giving up is the only option. There is no tunnel. There's just nothing. It's all empty. Story 48. It's like swimming in a beautiful, clear, warm ocean. Suddenly the water turns black and cold, as if you've swum too far and reached a depth you can feel when the temperature drops with each heartbeat. You look back to the shore. Everything is as you left it. People are happy, laughing and playing in the warm sand, enjoying themselves, each other, and the sun. They wave and cheer for you to swim back. But you are stuck in this cold, dark spot and cannot move. You try to get back to shore, but something holds you by the ankles. No one can help you. That is how it feels for me. Hang in there if you are one of us. You can do this. You will do this. One day at a time. Just one more day. Sending love to whoever reads and needs this right now. I am proud of you. Story 49. It's the feeling of numbness and emptiness. It was like that for me, at least. I believe depression is different for everyone. For an extrovert, it can lead to isolating themselves. For an introvert, it can mean feeling nothing at all. I think it depends on your personality. Story 50. A heavy burden never lessens. I must bear it for my family even when I can't anymore. Story 51. Mine feels like having the flu. I cannot move about much and everything feels like a lot of effort. Story 52. For me, it is a dark cloud above me and I feel heavy. I have no desire for anything or anyone and I feel in a daze. I get upset because I do not want to feel apathetic. I recognize this in the moment but cannot feel better, which adds to the heaviness and guilt. It becomes a cycle. What helps is not staying in the dark, because depression thrives there. I tell my husband and my best friend openly when I am having one of those days. My children help because I have to be there for them, so it keeps me from lying in bed all day. Another thing that helps is stepping outside, no matter the weather. Story 53. You know how little brothers can be tricked by handing them a controller while you actually play the video game and they think they're doing great because they're young and inexperienced? Okay, so you're the little kid. You think you're in charge of your actions and responsible for outcomes, but someone else is controlling the character on screen. That's depression with the real controller. You start to realize you're not the one moving the avatar or taking action. Depression can keep your character stuck at level 1 and not moving. Depression can make your character slam into walls and go in the wrong direction. No matter how much you want to be in control, depression won't hand over the real controller. Story 54. Picture a darkness you cannot escape and no longer care to leave. Things that once gave you joy no longer matter. You know what it is, but do nothing about it. Limbo, purgatory, and indeterminate prison sentence for the high crime of breathing. Story 55. It is like falling into a dark pit 100 feet deep from which you know you cannot escape. You can see the daylight at the very top, but you also know there is nothing you can do to get out. Trying to do anything only makes the pit deeper. Story 56. Feeling so low that nothing, no matter what, cheers you up. Story 57. Looking back on a period of depression, it felt like living under a dark cloud. I had things I knew I should have been happy about, but I could not feel happy. I was at a Mannheim Steamroller Christmas concert in Minneapolis many years ago. I would have normally had so much fun, but I felt nothing. I knew something was not right, but I did not know what it was at the time. I had no reason to be depressed. I had just gotten married and moved from another state, and I was excited about that. Probably lasted a few months. There was no rhyme or reason why it came or went. Story 58. Imagine your brain assuming the worst-case scenario for every little thing that happens. Even joy feels fleeting. When things get really bad, you feel incapacitated. All of that for no reason. Story 59. What I remember most about my major depressive episode, which in retrospect was also autistic burnout, was derealization. This can happen in typical depression as well, so I will describe it. It felt like being unplugged in ultra-high definition. Everything was hyper-real. Every detail was there, but I was not connected to any of it. I could see everything that was happening behind my eyes, but it was like watching my body move through life in the third person. Then came the fatigue, the fog, and the anhedonia, when nothing brought joy anymore. Everything became exhausting. Words were slow and slurred, and my mind struggled to assist as I tried and failed to speak. All emotions felt the same. They were heavy in the chest and dragged me down, and the inner critic, masquerading as my best self, started telling me that I was a burden. I began to believe it. I thought it would be the greatest favor to the world if I did not exist. The fog became so thick that it was almost impossible to see any reality beyond that existence. I have climbed out of depression a few times, but it is always an uphill battle. My biggest takeaway is that I got my wish. The life I lived when I wanted it all to end no longer exists. I no longer live in the same place. I am not surrounded by the same people. My career has changed, and I have the freedom and privilege to be myself. I got my wish. For those still in the fog, know that you can have this wish granted too. Hold on long enough to see that day for yourself. Story 60. A lack of interest in everything. This ranges from advanced things like going out, interacting, and doing your job to simple things like getting out of bed, showering, and eating. When it is bad, living feels like a chore. Story 61. It is like trying to run underwater. You are exhausted from the effort. Story 62. Depression is the quicksand they warned you about in the 1980s. You are stuck. You are able to see everything but can do nothing. You know what you should and could do but are unable to take the next step. You are resigned to drowning slowly. Story 63. It feels hollow but heavy inside. I feel a weight chaining and dragging my heart down while my gut feels empty. Story 64. You cannot think clearly. Nothing sounds appealing to eat, and you do not want to do anything or leave the house. You feel empty. Story 65. Unfortunately, you cannot. There are hundreds of words we can use to describe it, but until it happens to you, you do not fully appreciate the overwhelming emptiness. Story 66. You don't want to get out of bed ever. You either starve yourself or binge eat, and your diet can change drastically. Even small issues feel insurmountable, and showering seems like it's not worth the effort. You stop reaching out to friends and family and isolate from those who love you because you do not feel worthy of their love. You lock the doors both physically and mentally. At times you can make it out of the mire of your clouded mind, and at other times you cannot. Story 67. You feel dead inside. You watch other people live their lives. Story 68. Emotionally and psychologically, you are numb. Mentally, you are disconnected from yourself and from others, no matter how much you want a connection. Whatever deep connection you once had no longer exists. Story 69. Everything feels empty, meaningless, and unbearably heavy. Sleeping is the only reprieve. Food tastes bland, music is just noise, and you forget how to smile. You have to pull your facial muscles to lift your lips into what a smile should be. Story 70. It is a fucking nightmare that cannot adequately be described. Story 71. I am 55 and menopausal. I have woken up my entire life feeling energetic and with little pain, healthy and often cheerfully peppy. The last couple of years have not been like that. No one could have explained it to me in a way I could understand. Story 72. No matter how many lights you turn on, it is still dark. The darkness is exhaustion and hopelessness, the feeling of sliding down faster than you can climb. Nothing you do or think can shake it. Even if you find joy or distractions, it waits for you the moment things become quiet. Story 73. It's like I'm in a warm, cozy bed in a dark room, and I would much rather stay in that black cocoon than do anything else. Story 74. Every day you will feel like you want to die, but you do not. Story 75. I would like to add how depression fuels suicide. You are in a tall building. Flames surround you. You feel heat and suffocation. The flames do not kill you. You are there, suffocating. Then there is the window. How long could you withstand the allure of jumping out? Story 76. You do not have the energy to do something that would take less than 5 minutes. So things start piling up and you become buried. Story 77. You are sleepy, but you don't really want to sleep. Sometimes you sleep too much, and when you open your eyes you are still so tired that not even hunger feels like a reason to get up. In your head there is a voice that says what you do is worthless because it changes nothing. That if you weren't here it wouldn't matter. There are billions of people who do not have depression or problems. That every time you try to get better it is a ruse. You cannot get better. Your lowest is your true self. All the bad things you think about yourself and try to ignore because that is just depression feel true, no matter how much you try to prove them wrong. You know food tastes good, you remember it tasting good, but it does not make you feel better when you eat. Showers used to be comforting. Not anymore. The sun used to make you feel good. Now it is just hot. You keep remembering how hobbies filled your life, how shows made you want to binge. Now you do whatever you can just to keep your mind busy. Most of the time you would rather just sleep because when you sleep you do not feel. You might cry a lot or you might not. It never seems to help. Sometimes you want to cry and cannot. Moving anywhere feels like pushing boulders. Going out should be good for you, but even in a room full of friends who are happy to see you, you feel lonely. It is like being hungry with food just out of reach, watching everyone else reach their food without trouble and enjoy their lives, while you just cannot. No matter how much you try, people judge you, and it is killing you to know that. It does not matter if it is actually true or not. Sometimes it is just a momentary thing. Sometimes you need the right medication. But if it sounds like torture, it is. Story 78. I felt empty. I did not feel happy or sad. I felt as if I were living in a void. Now, sometime later, that period of my life seems like a dull blur I cannot explain. Story 79. The joy found in life grows cold like day-old coffee. Then you watch the cup empty into the drain with indifference tinged with sadness. If it is at full strength, you shut down, hoping death will relieve you of your torment. Story 80. It is like your bones are made of lead, and you have to fight to take each step, otherwise you will get sucked into the floor. Story 81. I have hoped for cancer or some other deadly illness so I could die without it being my fault. I have even wished that a minor health problem, like an ingrown toenail, would get bad enough to kill me. I am really sorry you are feeling this way. If you are in immediate danger, call emergency services, for example, 911 in the United States, or go to the nearest emergency room. If you are in the United States or Canada, you can call or text 988 to reach the suicide in crisis Lifeline. If you are in the United Kingdom or Ireland, you can call Samaritans at 116 123. I can help find a local helpline if you tell me your country. If you can, please consider telling someone you trust or a health professional. I am here to listen and to help you find support. Story 82. Imagine if every meal you had ever only tasted like oatmeal. A big juicy steak somehow tastes like oatmeal. A fresh salad tastes like oatmeal. Eventually, the kind of food you want to eat becomes irrelevant because it will all taste like oatmeal. So you might as well just eat oatmeal, right? You lose motivation to put any effort into the food you buy or make. Unless you arm yourself with serious discipline and vigilance, you are likely to become malnourished from all the low-effort food. Will it kill you? Probably not. Will it drive you insane given enough time? Absolutely. Now replace the food and its taste with your joy for life. Nothing is fulfilling. Accomplishments feel meaningless. Being productive and getting things done feels the same as sitting and staring at a tree stump. So why bother? Story 83. Everything will be fine for 1 week. Nothing new will happen. All your normal stressors are the same, but suddenly you start putting yourself down. It's not intentional. It is just your own voice in the back of your head critiquing everything you do and telling you it's not enough, that you are failing. Everyone you love and they know it. You are tired, so tired your body feels heavy. Maybe you want to cry and you do. Maybe you want to cry and you cannot. Even when you become self-aware enough to recognize the pattern, it feels like a failure because you can't pull yourself out of it before it pulls you down. I suffer from hormonal depression, so 2 weeks out of every month, in conjunction with my period, I feel completely worthless and unlovable. Story 84. I remember the darkness and a feeling of hopelessness. A sunny day did not feel sunny to me. I just wanted to sleep to keep thoughts of suicide away. I beat myself up because I did not want to be depressed. I finally went to the doctor and got treatment. I still have bad days occasionally, but it is better overall. Story 85. Trying to crawl out of a pit that surrounds you with everything you fear while people you love and complete strangers stand at the edge asking what is wrong and why you cannot just go for a walk. They look at you as if you are crazy but do not reach out to help. If someone does reach out, you cannot grasp their hand. The evil in the pit screams your insecurities and tells you how useless you are. Story 86. Can you explain depression in simple words to someone who has never experienced it? Why bother? Story 87. For me, it was a generalized feeling of what is the point about everything in my life. Studying, eating, hygiene, and getting out of bed. It was a purposeless void that drained my will to live. Story 88. It is like having wet concrete poured on your brain every day, while others judge you for not being able to function normally. Story 89. The scene in the New Moon movie where Bella sits in a chair and stares out the window for 4 months. Story 90. Life is not worth living. It is not worth the effort. Nothing brings you joy, you just exist. Story 91. It is like being at the bottom of a deep black hole with no way out. Story 92. Everywhere I am, I want to be somewhere else. When I finally find myself in the place I thought I wanted to be, I realize I don't want to be there either. Story 93. Your arms and legs feel too heavy to move. You feel too tired to do anything, but you are not sleepy. Feels like a thick, invisible cloak weighing you down. Story 94. The absence of joy. The belief that everything good in your life has already happened and there is nothing left. The feeling that people would be better off without you. Story 95. When I was a kid, I remember telling my parents that everything felt like a chore. I was talking about something I should have enjoyed, but I was too young to know what depression was or to fully understand emotions. It still feels like the best way to describe it. Every little thing feels like my least favorite chore. I could not even get up to go to the couch or to get food. I lost a lot of weight because getting up felt like such a huge chore that I could not bring myself to do it. Story 96. It feels like someone has a hand on my head, trying their hardest to push me into the ground. I struggle to lift my feet and do not want to get out of bed. Occasionally, it feels like boulders are shackled to my feet, which makes everyday life very difficult. I am doing well at the moment, and not feeling pushed and heavy is a welcome change. Story 97. The best you can do is describe it. You cannot actually explain it to someone who does not have a frame of reference. Story 98. I like the phrase from an Emily Dickinson poem, "The Hour of Lead." I think the poem is about grief, but this is how depression feels to me. Days, weeks, months of nothing but lead. Story 99. It is like when you have a cold and lose your sense of taste. You could have the most delicious plate of food in front of you, but when you eat it, the sensation is so dulled that it is almost nothing. Depression is experiencing every aspect of your life that way. Anything that used to give you pleasure no longer does. There is also the physical aspect. Your body feels like stone and the pull of gravity has somehow become much stronger. There is a sensation of being dragged down so heavily that the slightest movement seems like a massive effort. Story 100. Imagine feeling nothing, neither happy nor sad, just watching the world exist without you. When you desperately want to feel anything, the only emotions available are sadness and fear. Would you rather feel nothing at all or be sad and scared, knowing you will never feel happiness again? Art, family, and music mean nothing. Your experience is only sadness or numbness. Story 101. It feels more like the original Mad World by Tears for Fears, including the dance in the video clip, than the version by Gary Jules. That is why it is hard to grasp for people who have not experienced depression. It does not appear as dramatic sadness as many expect. It is a more complex mixture of feelings and numbness at the same time, which is difficult to describe in words. That is why I used a musical example at the beginning. Story 102. Hyperbole and a half did it well. Adventures in Depression. Depression Part 2. Story 103. It's like a heavy, wet blanket wrapped around your brain. Everything feels bleaker and harder. It's harder to focus, sleep, or feel motivated. You're tired all the time and everything feels overwhelming. It causes you to withdraw from things that are good for you. You cannot simply will yourself out of depression, as many people claim. If someone says they did, it is unlikely they had clinical depression. Story 104. You feel empty, as if you lack something. You desperately want to fill the void in your soul, but nothing ever comes close. You might smile for a few seconds at a gathering or while drinking with friends, but the corrosive mindset always swallows the light after a while. At least this is what I feel. Story 105. For me, it is a need to withdraw to my bed, feeling weighed down by errands and routine tasks and saying no to nearly all invitations. Story 106. Tell them it is time for someone to compromise in order to grow. Story 107. Sometimes it feels like I am watching my own life passively. Story 108. Like a thick, heavy blanket pressing down on you all the time. You do not have the strength to take it off. After a while, you give up trying to remove it and say screw it. You continue trying to live under it, but it is slowly suffocating you. Story 109. Everyone gets sad when traumatic things happen, and we grieve in predictable ways. We move from rejecting the trauma to accepting it. It may always hurt when we think of it, but we can retrace that journey and know we are okay. Depression is a sadness without a defined trauma. There is no predictable outcome of acceptance. Depression is grief that spirals aimlessly in search of an outcome. Depression becomes the trauma. Because of this, it goes far deeper than just sadness. It feeds on itself as it sinks deeper, and because you cannot identify the source, you blame yourself. Guilt, worthlessness, self-hatred. You obsess over these things to the point of cruelty. You self-reflect so obsessively, searching for the cause, that every misstep and offense in your past seems egregious. If you treated others the way you treat yourself, you would be a monster. And you are completely aware of it the whole time. You know it is not right, but it must be right because what is the other explanation? It can go on for months and feel endless, a constant cycle of spiraling from a baseline that always drops lower. When bad things do happen, you are numb to them. You must deserve it. It is just more fuel for the fire. Only much later do you end up dealing with actual trauma, and by then it has festered so long it is grotesque. You feel loss or harm so acutely it becomes paralyzing. Eventually, everything in your head just hurts. Every thought feels tightly wound with the others, so you cannot untangle one feeling from another. It metastasizes like a cancer. It drains your energy, physically hurts. You would do anything to stop feeling this way. It feels urgent and unsafe, as if it needs an immediate and permanent solution. Story 110. I am very sad, Too sad to eat, sleep, wake up, bathe, or do anything. Story 111. There are some excellent answers. If you would like to read up on the topic in more technical language and explore the structure of perception in states of depression, I recommend an article by Professor Thomas Fuchs, who holds the chair of phenomenological psychiatry and psychopathology. Story 112. It's like being stuck in a dark forest with a flashlight that won't turn on. You can see other people walking around with theirs working perfectly. They notice the trees, the river, and the small details, while you keep smacking the flashlight and swapping batteries, but nothing changes. You are still standing in the dark while everyone else moves through the world with ease. Story 113. Mine wasn't chronic. I burned out twice. Damned if I'll do everything to avoid that again. For me, emotion took effort and I did not have the energy. I did not realize I was depressed because I remained functional until suddenly I wasn't. I still felt small bits of happiness, usually in the morning and just before I remembered I had to go to work. Then it was drag yourself out of bed, shower, dress, eat, get to work. I felt exhausted. I could have a good day and by the end of it I would feel exhausted. I would get home, shower, eat an easy meal, stare at the wall and go to sleep. I avoided feeling emotion, even the positive ones, because I expected something bad to happen and take it away. That was more effort than I could manage. In retrospect, the moment I began breaking into tears for no clear reason was when I actually started to turn around. Story 114. The worst depression I experienced felt like living in a deep, dark cave. Although I could see the opening above me, I could not reach it or pull myself out. Now, every day I know that cave is there, and I try never to fall into it. I get close occasionally. That's when I ask for help. Story 115. Imagine being a watercolor painting left out in the rain. Story 116. You do not want to live but are still afraid of the pain and uncertainty of death. You feel stuck between two worlds, not living, just existing without purpose. Story 117. I have experienced feeling depressed, and I would say it feels like a black and white filter over life. Everything is gray, dull, and boring. I get little or no enjoyment from normal daily tasks or hobbies. There is often a lingering sadness that comes and goes, and self-care can feel like a chore. Motivation is non-existent. Going to work or school feels like a chore. I go through the motions without feeling passionate or happy about things I usually enjoy, just numb. Life passes me by while everyone else appears to be so happy. When I feel normal, it is the complete opposite. Life feels vibrant, I enjoy many things, and I have a lot of motivation. Not everything feels like a chore. Story 118. You are empty. You do things that you know should give you joy. You interact with people and smile, but there is nothing behind it. Story 119. The world is like a low-resolution, black and white television, and you are watching it from outside the house. It is as if every day is winter, and you know other seasons exist. The world is quiet, slow, gray, numb. I have a distinct memory of being in a depression after my partner died. I had been depressed for years before that, but I went on a solo trip I had never taken. It was spring. It had felt like winter had lasted for years, even though it had been only a few months. I woke up early and watched the sun rise and people wake up. I smelled delicious food and saw trees blossoming. Suddenly colors appeared in my world for the first time. The warmth of the air and sun felt incredibly nourishing. I wept at how beautiful the world looked and took joy in simply looking at it. It felt like being born anew, as if I were seeing and experiencing simple pleasures for the first time. Story 120. I explained it like this to my ex. He said he felt my words. Every day is dark and I struggle to find light. Every night I go to bed and pray not to wake up. Each morning I wake up disappointed. Story 121. Imagine waking up with extra weight on every movement, even though it is all in your mind and does not feel that way. Imagine being in that state and having no energy to find a way to solve it. Story 122. Sometimes it's a heavy blanket laid over my shoulders, with a black fog in my head. Other times it's an amplifier for my negative emotions. Sometimes it's a voice inside my head, critically judging every interaction and choice I make. It just depends. Story 123. It is not being able to understand the idea that things will get better at a chemical level. Story 124. Have you ever seen someone or something dipped in wax? For me, depression is like being that object. My emotions become covered in wax, insulating them from the good things in life. I focus more on my isolation from everyone and everything I enjoy, which makes that wax thicker. Negative things grow larger because the positive things that would balance them are increasingly unlikely to reach the person I am becoming. Without proper help to crack that coating and free me, it will not happen. Because the layers start thin and small, they are not noticeable until they become too thick for me to break on my own. No one sees them, leaving me alone. Story 125. I like to think of it like wearing dark sunglasses and how it affects your perception of the world. Sunglasses shade everything a little darker, but depression dulls everything across the board and makes it feel flat. Fun and exciting things are less so. A bright sunny day that puts everyone in a great mood is just flat to you. Bad things are flat too, and you just slog your way through them. Food does not taste great. It is just food, so motivation to eat comes and goes. Much of this makes each part of the day feel isolated from the others because you are just coasting through it. Other people talk about the fog you seem to exist in, and that is true. It feels like a cloudy, rainy, gray, foggy day, and that is how everything is perceived and how it makes you feel, even if it does not actually look like that in reality. Some of the worst days are the good days. Great weather, fun times, nothing goes wrong, yet you are in the middle of it, second-guessing, self-aware, feeling out of place and guilty that you are not having a better time. Other people can probably see it, and you hope they do not ask so you do not seem ungrateful. It is self-propagating in that way. Even great times can push you back down. Story 126. What resonated with me was Andrew Solomon's description that depression is not a lack of joy but a lack of vitality. I once loved a podcast called The Mental Illness Happy Hour in which either the host or a caller described depression as having to carry water in a bucket from place to place while the bucket leaks through holes. Paraphrased. Story 127. The best explanation of depression I have heard was from talk show host Dick Cavett. He described it this way. Imagine you are very sick and a pill sits on a table on the other side of the room. The only thing you would have to do to be cured immediately is walk across the room and take the pill. Depression makes you feel that it is not worth getting out of bed and walking across the room to take it. Story 128. Depression is feeling invisible in a room full of smiling people. Choose your core wisely. Story 129. I had postpartum depression after my baby was born, but I did not recognize it for about a year. I thought depression meant being sad and crying all the time. Now I would describe it as having no motivation for anything. Story 130. An emptiness that cannot be filled, no matter what you do. Claws at you. Story 131. It feels like when I got socks as a kid for Christmas. Those socks feel different as an adult, but that would have devastated me at 10 years old. Story 132. It's like the only thing you want to do is go to bed, sleep, and not wake up. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Are you thinking about harming yourself, or are you in immediate danger? If you are in immediate danger, call emergency services right now. If you are in the United States, call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency number or a local crisis line. If you can, tell someone you trust or reach out to a mental health professional. I'm here to listen if you want to talk. Story 133. It is like your body is awake, but your soul has called in sick. Story 134. I cannot see anything good in the future. I feel trapped in a dark, inevitable mental state and believe there is no chance things will truly get better. Story 135. You feel heavy. Your arms, head, legs, and thoughts are heavy, even when you get out of bed. Story 136. Your legs feel as if they weigh 1,000 pounds. Gravity seems unbearably strong. Every small task requires 1,000% effort. As you do only the bare minimum to survive, more problems pile up because you lack the energy, and you become more depressed. You withdraw from others, which makes the depression worse. This becomes a downward spiral. Story 137. Depression is terrible. You just feel like dying every day and you want to give up on life. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself or ending your life, please contact emergency services right now or call your local crisis line. In the United States, call or text 988 for immediate help. If you are elsewhere, contact your local emergency number or a local suicide prevention hotline. If you want, I can help find resources or stay with you here. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.